All right, great. Okay, folks, it's 3 o'clock. So we're going to get this third and final webinar of Hog Week brought to you by the Central Texas Feral Hog Task Force on its way. We have a very special guest in my book for you this afternoon. I'm glad you could join us today. And as a reminder, we are recording these webinars and we'll have them on our website starting next week, so other folks can be invited to view these. If you have questions, please be sure and use the chat function, and I will try to get those asked to the speaker, and we can record those, or we can connect by email later. Today, I'm very excited to have Bubba Ortiz with us with Ortiz Game Management. Bubba has been doing this for as long as anybody I know. I don't know if he has it trademarked or not, but I refer to Bubba as the Hog Whisperer. Bubba is very adept at hog behavior and has to, I think, for his business survival. He is a professional feral hog manager, working just here in the South Texas in the Hill Country. We've used Ortiz Game Management for work in Hays and Caldwell County in the past through some of our grants. And I think Bubba will tell you today, these hogs, he can confirm how intelligent these animals are and how reevaluation and adaptation is critical to any hog management plan. So rather than listen to me, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bubba Ortiz, and we can have a conversation. Bubba, if you've got some things to share, PowerPoint or videos, we'd love to see those as well. This webinar will last. They'll kick us out of the room around 3:40. So we're going to try to be done by then, hopefully a little bit sooner. So with that, Bubba, I'm going to go ahead and give you the screen.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. How y'all doing today? I hope you guys are doing good. Like Nick said, I've been doing this for quite a long while. I've actually been doing this for 50 years. My family's been involved in a lot of the hog abatement. I'm just going to go ahead and start with my PowerPoint here. And I guess, Nick, if anybody comes up with a question or sees something they want to talk about, let me know.
Absolutely. And thanks to the power of technology, I'm doing this from Hamilton, Texas.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm on my way up to Glen Rose and didn't quite make it there in time for the webinar. So
Wow.
thank you to
Okay.
the Hamilton Public Library.
Wow. That's interesting. Technology is something. So here we go. So a lot of people want to know about feral hogs, and one of the questions they always ask me is how'd they get here? Well, that picture there was De Leon. And if you see that little red line that goes across southeast the United States there, he's one of the explorers, and he was actually denoted as finding the Mississippi River. Well, back in the day, they didn't have, refrigeration on ships. They brought live chickens and a cow and brought hogs over. When he got here, he let them loose in Florida. And, just like in Europe, he figured they'd take care of themselves. When they want one, they just eat one. And I think the first year he had like 7. And 2 years later, they tried to count it, and they had like something like 400. So they no doubt took over, and they traveled with him all across the southeast. But that's not the only way I believe that they got here. This is my own theory that I've postulated. You see, these settlers used to come over with hogs too, and they didn't have pens. They used to dock the ears on hogs. I don't know if people remember how that is. But they'd cut notches in the ears, and the hogs used to run around in the woods and in fields and stuff. And sometimes they would just get loose and go feral. This is like an old hog slopping chute right there. And you remember the hog calling contest used to have back in the 70s when I was growing up? They'd call the hogs in to eat. And some of them didn't come to eat. They stayed out in the woods. Those became the feral hogs. But they traveled through the west, or settled the west, just like the settlers did. That's how they got here. Now, some behavior and characteristics. Yeah, they do have big teeth, and yes, they do travel in family groups. But how many people think that they communicate or know that they communicate? In that picture there, doesn't it look like that one hog there is talking to the other one? And then the one looking at him goes like, "Oh, really? Are you serious?" Yeah, they do communicate well, and I equate their intelligence to dolphin or chimpanzee intelligence because they communicate and they teach their young, and they problem solve to get out of traps. For example, in this picture here, it was raining when the picture first came through, and there's a hog in the trap and there's a hog outside the trap, and this is kind of a swing door trap. And it looks like that hog is talking to the hog that's in the trap. The next picture I got from this camera, both hogs were gone. So either that hog told the hog that's in the trap how to get out, or it told that hog, "I'm going to hold the door open and you come out." So that's one reason why it's hard to trap these critters. The picture I had of them both of an empty trap was too blurry, and the rain had hit the lens, and I didn't put it on this PowerPoint. But some people ask me, said, "Well, rivers and good bodies of water will keep hogs from proliferating throughout the land, right?" Well, this is a river up by Dallas. These hogs are coming across the water here, and this river is actually in flood stage. So it doesn't seem to bother them at all. Here's a video a buddy of mine on Calaveras Lake sent me. Doing some fishing, and look what's in the lake.
Wow, I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, so apparently this hog, I mean, most hogs aren't suicidal. Most animals aren't suicidal, and they don't, have pity for themselves usually. So this hog probably has made this trip before across the lake. They're not just going to jump in the water and see where it goes. So he's just out for his morning swim. So yeah, places like lakes, rivers, they're not going to stop the hogs from getting to where they want to go. I even had hogs jump in the river to get away from me when I was chasing with dogs. Now this is that's the longest population. Yeah, they are prolific breeders, and that's the longest amount of time that I think they take to breed. Usually it takes 111 days, so almost a little bit over 3 months, maybe 4 months, and they'll drop a litter. But let's just say that we have one sow, and she's going to drop a litter. Now, most people tell me that they see this one sow, and they usually see it with about 10 piglets. There's been several studies in Texas that say that hogs have anywhere from 6 to 8 piglets. But for me, the ease of mathematics and what people tell me, let's just say that she had 10 piglets. And let's say that she has 5 male and 5 female. That usually doesn't occur that way in nature. Usually they have more female than male because nature's kind of fixed this problem. A male can service more than one sow. So naturally she's going to put more females out than males. In 6 to 8 months, those piglets are going to be sexually mature enough and breed ready if they're not already bred. So if you count their gestation period, which is about 3 or 4 months, anywhere from about 9 months to a year, those little ones are going to drop their first litter. And if they have the same number of piglets as their mother, which is going to be 50 new piglets, plus the 5 new mothers, plus the 5 original males that were in the first litter, and the original mother, that's 61 hogs in about a year. A lot of people think that's a lot. Well, a lot of people don't know that hogs breed about twice a year. So if she does that cycle twice, that's 122 hogs in just over a year. Now, depending on the food supply and the water, it's not unusual. It's not common, but it's not unusual for them to breed 3 times a year. So if that sow breeds 3 times a year, you get 183 hogs in just about over a year. But that's if you only start with the original sow, one sow. If you have 10 sows, population grows quite a bit. And as the sow population grows, so does it exponentially grow every time they breed. So in the span of a year, you can see how it can get away from you. That's why hogs are a big problem.
Those are incredible numbers.
I can do math, Nick. Surprisingly. I didn't count all these hogs though, but how'd you like to drive down that road in the middle of the night? Here's a video coming up. That's a mess of hogs, isn't it?
Wow. Where did you get that video?
It was northeast Texas.
Wow.
Now some people ask me how smart is this old pig. So why can't you just throw traps on the ground and get rid of them? Well, there's a lot more to that. You see this one pig that's looking up. Now I always ask people, why do you think she's looking up? Well, she actually knows it's a trap. And I think you can see my mouse in this picture. But she's looking up this cable that runs and drops down right here, and there's a pressure plate she sits on, which actually closes this door. Right? She's looking to see if I had set the trap. There's a little metal plate that I flip over that'll keep the pin from falling, right? If somebody touches this plate. So she has figured me out. She's watched me from the bush or from wherever, and she's figured out that if I leave that metal thing up, the door will fall, pigs get trapped. If I leave it down, then she can come and eat the bait quite readily. In this particular case, and you can see hogs behind her, she's keeping the other hogs out of the trap. The trap was locked open. I was just baiting, and she let the other hogs in. So that's pretty smart for a pig. Now listen to this. I'm here with Cedar, Texas State, and this is one of their pens. We got hogs trapped in right now. And I want to ask you, what reason do you have to pull the rope out of the pen?
Well, the first time we had some trapped in our pen. They hit the trip bar, and we left the rope in, but when we were trying to calm them down a little bit, she was still wandering back and forth, ended up pulling the rope, opening the door about 3 to 5 inches.
She pulled it to open it with her mouth, right? She didn't get tangled up.
No.
She grabbed it with her mouth and pulled it up. That's how these hogs knew it was a door, knew she had figured out how it operated, and was pulling on it to raise the door up to let her little ones out. And the only thing is she couldn't get out because she was pulling on the rope.
Yeah, I had to jump out of the truck just to stop her from doing it.
That's a college hog, Nick. That's a pretty smart pig right there. Another problem is threat to wildlife. They're a danger to ground nesting birds like quail and turkey, even waterfowl, because the waterfowl, they like to be around water, they like to wallow. They'll eat duck eggs and other waterfowl eggs and even eat the birds themselves. Not unlike the pig you see on the right there, it has a fawn in its mouth. Some people ask me, can they actually put their mouth around eggs and stuff like that? So, well, here's a little experiment we did. Put eggs out, see if put a camera on it, see if they can eat and break open chicken eggs. They sure can. I don't know why people don't think that they can open their mouths that wide, but they can. Another problem is to livestock. Not only will they be aggressive to livestock and compete for food if you're throwing range pellets or any kind of feed on the ground, but they can get hungry enough, and like the one on the left there, they can decide to take the animal as a snack. Pigs are omnivorous, and they eat out of not a convenience. Availability. If something's available and they're hungry, they're going to eat it. The other threat to livestock is that their close proximity to livestock, they may have some diseases that will carry over to your herd. They do have. I did have a problem with this one fellow the sheep were dying off. They were like getting real sick and having diarrhea and dying off. And I go, well, where's your pond at? And he thought the hogs were killing them, and because the hogs would actually eat them after they died, and there was pieces of them all over the place. And he said, let's take a look at your pond. And took a look at the pond. There's no way the water can come in and out of there, and the hog population there is so big. And one of the things the hogs do when they come to water is that they defecate. So the water had become polluted. It become toxic, and the goats were drinking out of it, and they were getting dysentery, and that's actually what was killing the goats. I do have a story, Nick, that I went to another pond like that as well as goats, and it wasn't a hog, and it wasn't dysentery. There's actually an alligator in this pond. I have a picture of that. But can they be a threat to humans? Well, apparently this one here has decided that associated that the dumpsters it's a food source. And this is across the street from the elementary school. That's a pretty big pig there.
That is the coolest hairstyle I've ever seen on a pig.
He kind of if his hair was blonde, he reminded me of you, Nick.
Oh man, thanks, Bubba. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
The threat to humans is they're traffic hazards. You can't see them. Their eyes don't actually shine very well at night, like you'd see a raccoon or a deer. You'd have to get like right directly in an eye level with them for their eyes to shine. And an IR light and an infrared light, they'll shine. But on the regular car light, if you're traveling down the road, they won't shine right. And they are usually black. Not to say that all of them are black, but they're usually black. And if your car hits it, the Department of Insurance in Texas says the average amount of damage they do is $1,200 damage to your car. Not to mention you could lose control and flip over. We've had a lot of problems when I-30 opened up. You remember that, Nick?
Absolutely. I think that brought this issue really into a major spotlight, especially in Central Texas.
Yeah. Here's a quick story. In Bexar County, District 2, a friend of mine is a fire chief over there. So he was a battalion chief. He said that he went to respond to a car accident, and the car didn't hit the hog. The hog hit the car, and it ran into the side of the vehicle, which was going approximately 45 miles an hour. And the hog was so big, it smashed the right rear passenger door and quarter panel. And this caused the car to fishtail and go off the road and hit a light pole. And two of his crew was trying to pull the hog off the road, and they couldn't pull it off the road. And there was a guy right there pretty close to his horse, saw him struggling, so he offered to help, and he drugged the hog off with his rope and his horse.
Wow.
That's another danger right there. So if you don't hit them directly and they cause damage, if they hit you, they can cause you to lose control. And this is an excerpt from a newspaper, and I'll just read it to you. The police were called to a neighborhood near MacArthur High School, which is pretty close to the central part of San Antonio, not like downtown, but on the north side. After people had spotted a boar. Now this is the line I like. The officer who responded to the call shot the wild pig with a Glock handgun, his service gun, but the boar became agitated. Yeah, didn't like to be shot. Ran into a chain link fence and continued running the neighborhood. The officer then requested someone with a rifle to be sent out, and the officers had to shoot the animal 5 times to kill it. Now, I was called also on this. I respond to sometimes police calls and animal control calls me if there's a hog running about. And I told them, I said, give me like 30 minutes, just watch the hog. If it gets into somebody's yard, just make sure, trying to keep it from leaving by closing the fence, and I'll get there with my dogs and, take care of it. And I explained this to the citizens. It's a lot easier and a lot safer for me to go in there and wrangle it with my animals and by hand than it is to somebody shoot a moving target, especially with a rifle. Because not only will you might miss, but if the bullet goes through the hog, you don't know what's on the other side. And it was in a pretty crowded neighborhood. And this is what they do in neighborhoods. They start tearing up landscaping. They're becoming more of an urban problem, common urban problem. These pictures here are right up next to a house. They'll destroy fences. They'll dig up landscaping. They'll go for water where that sprinkler head is. They tear up large sections of land or areas around the house. And the reason they were tearing this area up, all this kind of, these are houses that are, out in the woods or something like that, but they're not. They're in regular neighborhoods. And they also go tear up bike trails and walking trails and parks. And that picture there, that somebody had left some chicken bones out in the trash can and wasn't taken away, and they knocked over the trash can and they ate all the trash and dug a hole.
Hey, Bubba, we lost you for maybe about 10 seconds, just right when you were discussing some of that urban damage at that first house you showed us a couple of slides back. And I don't know what your explanation was, but I was going to ask you a question about, yes, that one. No, the next one is where we lost you.
Okay.
But in your experience, when they are, rooting in those urban areas, do you think, are they looking, is it a certain time of year? Are they looking for grubs? Or are they just, what do you think is what's incentivizing them to be digging in those areas?
Well, there's a lot of things. You can't, sometimes it's numerous things, and it's never really just the same thing. Currently, well, actually, last month I had a lot of problem with hogs in neighborhoods because they were eating the June bugs.
Hmm.
That started in May, actually. They started eating the June bugs. This month, there's been more rhino beetles around. There's a golf course we were on the other day, and I was every like third steps you hear a crunch under your foot. You look down, you step on a rhino beetle. So they were out eating the beetles that were crawling along the ground, not necessarily grubs.
Mm-hmm.
They will root for grubs. They may even now, and this is. Are you still there?
We're still here.
Something went weird on my computer for a second. Now, and here's a theory. They come back. You see all this line here, and of course here they're probably either this sprinkler system had a leak, or they smelled water or moisture in here, and they just dug around here. They ended up digging and busting this pipe, and that's now they got the wallow. Now they got water in it. They could have very well smelled water here. Now, and agriculturally, and sometimes out in the not in urban settings, and sometimes in urban settings, people fertilize their yards, fertilize their plants. So Nick and seen a crop of field of corn or something, and part of it is really, really green, and some of it looks kind of yellow and sickly. Nick, you there?
Yep.
Okay. Have you seen that, or has anybody else seen that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Minerals travel in veins, just like you'd find any ore or gold or something like that. And the hogs sometimes they go after the minerals, so they'll go after some certain places that have that. And sometimes I think it's the smell of it's what you're putting in the ground to make your grass grow or make your plants grow that draws them in. Not to mention grubs, and not to mention June bugs, and not to mention rhino beetles, even earthworms. Like I said, they're opportunistic eaters, and that's why they go after things. They're not just digging just to dig. They're actually looking for something to eat. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So if you ever have an area that the hogs continually go back to, and they don't hit other parts of the yard or other parts of your field or other parts of your crop, it's probably because there's a vein of minerals running through there, and that's what they're attracted
Yeah,
to.
it's interesting because a lot of times, the rooting behavior can change based on what they're looking for or the soil type. They're sometimes it's just they're barely scratching the surface, and sometimes
Correct.
they're root plowing it 2 feet down if it's sandy soil and they can get down there.
Correct.
So,
A lot of it, like I said, it depends on what they want. Now, the next picture this was all rooted up by hogs because this air conditioner, he had it running off through here, and this is all wet and soggy.
oh yeah.
So they tore up his yard pretty good here, this old man. Now, you might think that this is out further out of the city limits, maybe in the county or something like that, but they're not. They're in neighborhoods. And they tear up walking trails. Here, to me, and it's an example of them going after like June bugs or earthworms, because it's not one continuous like field that's plowed. It's just little pockets, right? And this is a picnic area at a state park, and somebody had left the trash out and had chicken bones in it, and they just started digging and eating the chicken bones. And this is damage here, old damage. This is part of the same yard, but this is a major highway. There's a Kohl's across the street, and these pigs are not scared to be, close to traffic or in the city. Regular neighborhood, damage there. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. This is a pretty fancy house. They had hog damage in it. And this is like hoof prints running up by an academy. I'm going to try to pick up the pace a little bit here. You still there, Nick?
We're still here, and we won't get kicked out until 3:40.
Okay. So this is what I broke my record, Nick. So this year I caught a 345-pound hog, which is this one right here. It was in Marble Falls. And then I caught a 336-pound in the same trap, and a 333-pound, which is this hog here. That was a couple years ago. And the longest hog we removed this last year, in 2018 actually, was this hog here, 359.9 pounds. And the reason it's stiff is because it was hunting us. It was right behind us. We had to put it down.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big hog. We had to use the backhoe to get it off site. You look at this hog here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rungs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rungs. That's 3-foot mark right there on the tape measure. That's a pretty big pig. This one here is the same size as a deer. And this hog that I caught that was 345 pounds, to consume that weight, you have to maintain that weight, and to get that fat, you have to consume a tremendous amount of calories. And this was out in Marble Falls. There's no big crops, no big fields, nobody's throwing protein in the ground. There's not a lot of cattle out there for range pellets or anything like that. So this hog that was 345 pounds, and this 136 one that I caught in this trap, probably was like this guy. It was an apex predator. He was killing animals to get his calories. Very quickly, who we are. We're a family-owned business. I've been doing this for 50 years. My daughters helped me out quite a bit. My dad taught me, and my granddad also had a hand in it. We even got our dogs involved in it. How did we start? Well, we've always been around agriculture. We were farm people. And that's me down there in 1966. And we used to grow fruits and vegetables for H-E-B, and the excess we sold out on like a farmer's market. And there's my dad, and that was our cantaloupe patch one year. Well, why is my cantaloupe patch so small? Well, because hogs came and tore us up. So what happened is we went to work. We started developing different techniques and different traps and different ways to catch hogs, and built our own feeders, and we had some success. However, we did have our drawbacks, and we saw how hogs can figure things out, and how tough they really are, and how much damage they can do. Certainly how quick they are. And we started to understand them better. We got better at it. A little more hog psychology was learned. And pretty soon we were catching hogs on a regular basis. And we were catching a fair amount of them. So after helping us out, other people asked to help out. But one of the main things that we like to do is educate people. This is a talk I did to the watershed, actually.
Yep, that looks like the Lockhart Public Library. Lockhart State Park.
Yeah. And then I did talks to agriculture departments in schools, classes, talked about hogs and hog damage and a little bit of hog psychology. The more people that know about this, I think the more people would understand that there actually is an issue and there's a problem and we have to deal with it. Right now, I think we're hitting it, but we're not hitting it like we should. So, like I said, this is all we do. The last 50 years, this is how I make my truck payment, how I make my electric payment. So I'm out there 40 hours, if not more, a week. My daughter's there. She needed tires for her car, so she had to wrangle a hog out of a trap. And I like this picture because my daughter there in the purple, we had a hog that had like explosive diarrhea, and she got sprayed, and she's not real happy.
Oh, man.
She's not real happy, but they don't quit. They're out there working with me. And they're still out there working. They're already through college or in college, and they're coming in this weekend because they want to make some extra money. So this hog here jumped a 6-foot fence, but eventually I get to know him. And there's some other problems we have seen. Wart hogs that escaped from down by Carrizo Springs. Did you hear about that, Nick?
Yep.
Yeah. The guy had actually hired me to do some work on feral hogs on his place because he didn't want the feral hogs to get in the same pen as the wart hogs. And I was like, goodness, I don't know what kind of super pig he was trying to breed, but that carcass there is the biggest hog that we ever helped remove. That's actually in the city limits.
So, Bubba, I want to pause you here. We had a question come in, and you're a good person to answer this because I've had some of your wild boar carnitas. The question was, is the hog meat ever sold to market?
No, and yes. The 1971 Meat Inspection Act says that all meat, poultry, beef and swine, and hogs, wild hogs, being feral or not, they're swine, has to be USDA inspected for public consumption. However, the Food Inspection Service in DC told me and my sister that a state inspection would be good enough if it's not leaving the state. However, most people will go with the USDA inspection. The USDA inspection, you have to have a post-mortem and antes-mortem inspection. So they have to see it alive and dead. And it's also very, very expensive to get the inspector to come out there. Texas, you don't have to have an antemortem inspection, just a postmortem. You can get feral hog either on your own, or you can go to like our other business that we have is the feral hog holding station, and you can say, hey, Bubba, give me that spotted one right there. And then I become like an agent for you. I can slaughter it, and you can do whatever you want with it. It's your pig. I'm not selling it to public like in a restaurant or a market. I'm just selling it to you. And what you do with it is your business. Kind of like if you shot it like as a hunter and you process your own meat.
That's interesting on the state inspection. I had not heard about that. When did you find that information out?
When was that?
About. Hey Nick, this is me, Phoebe. Probably
Hi,
about.
Susie.
Maybe 7.
I've been here for 2, 3, 5 to 6 years ago.
5, 6 years ago.
5 to 6 years ago. Yeah.
And we
So are y'all selling in Texas, like to restaurants or anywhere with just
individuals?
You have to have a USDA inspected kill floor, or else you can't do anything else. And that's one of the biggest things. And you have to have a facility, and it's very intense. And I appreciate the fact that they're, doing that inspection and making sure that it's healthy and everything for other folks.
We like to, have a market for these animals. I think part of the solution would be, like my sister and my kids say, if you can't beat it, eat it. If we can find a market for them, I think it'd be great. But there's a lot of stumbling blocks in the way. We tried to open up our own facility, but one of the major stumbling blocks that got in our way for a process facility was, what do we do with the bio waste? The hooves, the skin, the head, the lungs, the heart, and everything like that. We got a whole lot of dog food companies, but they wanted like thousands of pounds at a time. So we would have to store this. I'd have to buy a walk-in fridge and freeze it, and I'd have to store it somehow. And then I'd have to get an 18-reeler or some truck hauler to haul it up. Because the only person that would actually take it was up in Colorado.
Okay.
So.
Hey, Bubba, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I thought we had until 3:40, but it looks like they're going to kick us out in about a minute and a half. So why don't you go ahead and wrap up?
Let me go through here. I want to show you what it looks like catching what my traps look like when I catch something. That's hog sneaking up. This is a live video feed trap. This is actually a capture here. Ready? I caught 16 out of 17. The one outside wouldn't come in.
Sometimes you got to cut your losses.
Yeah, right there.
Bang.
Some people, the reason I've redesigned some of my traps, I built in my electronic semi-traps. You see how they flinch before I close the door?
Mm-hmm.
I think they sensed the EMF from the electronics. So I moved them, but, with understanding, you get results. Here's some quick bonus clips. What it looks like in the trailer. Sounds like I got to go in there. I didn't know that.
You got to get it when you trap as many hogs as you do.
Yeah. Those are some of the smaller ones, but I've had to get in there with some big ones too.